Hello everyone and welcome back to my opinion. And the Chennai Super Kings have beaten the Royal Challengers Bangalore by 8 runs. Regarding the 11s of both teams, starting off with the home side, an unchanged 11 for the Royal Challengers Bangalore from their previous game against the Delhi Capitals. And for the Chennai Super Kings, one change from their previous game, the injured Susanda Magala being replaced by Matisha Patirana. And on the latter, we saw him play for CSK in the previous season and a few games towards the end of the season. And we've seen him bowl in the T10 as well. And in a general sense, I feel that at this point in time, even though he went very well today, he still isn't quite ready for this level. In my view, I feel is very raw in his career. And to fill in the shoes of the best Yorker bowler in South Africa is a tough ask. And let's see how he goes in the next few games, even though he had a very good game today. And Faf du Plessis won the toss and chose to field first. And I find myself asking once again, what are captains doing in this year's IPL with the toss? I mean, you saw KKR against SRH with the win they got against RCB, posting 200 odd on the board after a magnificent innings from Shardul Thakur. And then you see the way they win that game, you think, right, with the attack they've got, they can back themselves to especially defend that kind of a score. And they come up against an SRH side where you think if you bat first against their attack, you on that kind of a surface, you could fancy getting a decent score. And if KKR got a 190-200 total, then you'd think with their attack, it's never easy to chase that kind of a score down. At least it shouldn't be easy. And even though the SRH batting lineup, it looks very good, you'd still think chasing that kind of a score against this attack wouldn't be easy, more often than not. Instead, what they do is they let Aiden Markram, Harry Brook, etc. bat freely in the first innings on a good surface, and you saw what happened. So I didn't get that at all. And you may think, am I biased towards batting first? And while it may seem like that, I feel like if you're looking at the teams this season, Rajasthan Royals are the best bat first team in this competition. There is no reason for them to choose batting second in any occasion, really, if they have the choice to do so. And you've got an LSG where, yes, they've secured a couple of chases, but even look at the captain himself. In T20 cricket off late, KL Rahul has been a far better player batting first than batting second. And I feel LSG overall as well are a better team batting first than batting second. You've got the batsmen that they've got to just play freely, get a 200 odd score. And with the express pace of Mark Wood, you saw what happened against the Delhi Capitals in their first game with Ravi Bishnoi. And if they play Amit Mishra as an impact sub, you'd think against those two, it would be very difficult to get runs off them without losing wickets. So I think that you've got a case where LSG and Rajasthan Royals would much prefer batting first than batting second. And we've seen both those teams, the captains of both those sides, make the wrong call with the toss. And you've got a Mumbai Indians, for example, as well. Well, while they, in the last two games, have looked to bowl first and chase the score down, which with the scores that they've had to chase down, it has worked for them. It depends, because if you're facing a Rajasthan Royals in the Wankhede Stadium, will you really be brave enough to say, right, and in fact, I don't think they should do this. If you let the Rajasthan Royals bat first and they get a lot of runs in a Wankhede surface, are you going to be able to chase down 210 or so against their attack? You probably aren't going to be able to do that. So even then, for Mumbai Indians that right now would prefer to bowl first and then chase those scores down, in that particular game, I haven't looked at the calendar thoroughly. If that is going to be a game which happens, then if they win the toss, I'm sure they would think about the case where, right, do we want to let the Rajasthan Royals bat first? So I think if you're looking at the teams in this competition, I feel like batting first is the way to go. And I feel that if it's out of your control, in terms of if you lose the toss and get put in to do something that you probably wouldn't have wanted to do, then that's fair enough. But if you're Faf du Plessis in this scenario, we've seen this in a few instances in this competition from him so far in this season, where against the Mumbai Indians, bowling first is a completely different scenario, where you saw how their lineup went in the previous year and didn't go too great in the first game bar Tilak Verma resurgence. And it's a different scenario bowling first against them, then a CSK side where batting is their strength, you know that they will take their opportunity on this kind of a surface, and they did exactly that. So I don't get the calls that teams have been making in this competition, whether it's been the 11s they've been picking, the calls at the toss, and also bowler matchups, the batting lineups, the whole lot really. And starting things off, there's not too much for me to really say about the CSK innings, but starting things off, Mohammad Siraj, I think he has been one of the best, if not the best, new ball bowler in this competition so far. Has been bowling at almost 150 kph, getting the seam movement, and on this kind of a surface, 1 for 6 in his first 2 overs, dismissing a player like Rudraj Gaikwad early. I thought it was a fantastic opening burst by him, and he was the main reason why in the first 4 overs, I think CSK they were 25 for 1 in the first 4 overs, and we've seen Mohammad Siraj set the tone in the first 2 overs that he has bowled, and in my view he should bowl 3, at least 3 up front. I think that's his best position at opening the bowling in white ball cricket. And after that, Devon Conway, who was 20 off 15 in his first 15 balls, then scored 63 off his last 30, and you saw how he went alongside Nigarane, who he's walked out 3 times in this season and has looked $1 billion in every single one. And I think this kind of a surface is where he's in his element. Surprisingly, he went very well, like I said, in the previous game against the Rajasthan Royals on a surface that did offer something for the spinners. But in this case, on these good batting tracks, 37 or 20, I'm not surprised that he has scored this kind of a knock. He's got an early opportunity to bat. We've seen in these 3 games so far that Devon Conway or Rudraj Gaikwad have been dismissed early. And Rahane has been walking out very early in the piece, and he really has raced off the blocks from the start, as we've seen him do a lot of times, especially on good services. So really well done from him. He's been looking $1 billion whenever he's walked out to bat. And I'll say once again, if you've got a case where he isn't in contention to get back into the Indian Test side, there is something wrong there. And after he was dismissed, Shivam Dube walked out to bat, and he walked out to bat at 4, where we've seen in the previous couple of games where he's either got boundaries or it's just been dot balls. And we saw against the Lucknow Super Giants that after he got the dot balls initially, he got that release over from Ravi Bishnoi where he raced to 27 off 16. And I thought in this case, look, we know how clean of a striker he is. And when he hits the ball, it stays hit. 111 meter 6 today once again. I'm sure we've expected him to hit huge 6s when he does connect. And I think in this case, he connected a lot more than in the previous games, and therefore he could also rotate the strike a bit as well. But the fact that he connected a lot more in this game, I think that really transformed the outlook of the innings that we have seen previously in this season. We saw in the last season he played a couple of brilliant knocks, and once again a magnificent knock in this case. And I know Devon Conway got the man of the match, and you could say 83 or 45, an outstanding knock. But I thought Shivam Dube was the reason why they could really push for that 226 that they got. I thought the way he was just clobbering the bowlers was magnificent. And very well done from him in this innings. And like I said, once he got the scenario in this game where he was connecting more of those deliveries, then of course we've seen this kind of an innings happen, especially against RCB in the previous season, and we saw it happen once again today. A couple of cameos, Ambati Raidu walking out at number 5, Moeen Ali number 6, 14 off 6 and 19 off 9 respectively. And by the end, I mean, you kind of thought, I thought 190 at least and CSK would win the game, and I thought 220 could be forecasted, and in the end the cameos as well as the key performances in terms of the innings from Devon Conway and Shivam Dube meant that they got the runs quite quickly as well at the end, even with those cameos. Unfortunately for RCB, you saw the over that Harsha Patel bowled towards the end of his, I think in the last over of his spell. You think overall 36 runs in 20 balls on this kind of service. If he didn't bowl those overweight tight no balls in the last over, maybe his figures would be more respectable considering the circumstances. And unfortunately for him, I think it's a case where off late, even though he does have the ability to bowl the quicker one, he hasn't been bowling the quicker one. We saw when he made his debut for India in the, I think it was towards the start in the T20 series against New Zealand in January, where I talked about the fact that on that Eden Gardens surface, even though there was a lot of dew on the outfield, you saw this surface itself and you could bowl those cutters into the surface, which he likes to do. But we've seen in the early part of his international career that he bowled a lot of these 140 kph deliveries, and along with these slow deliveries, and that's what really got him that extra success. I feel now he's been a lot more one-dimensional in the past few games, and we've seen the slow balls. A lot of the time, he hasn't really got them right, and they have been hit for runs. So I hope he starts bowling the quicker one more like we did see at the start of his international career. And yeah, let's see how he goes. But we've seen him do well in the past, and I am backing him to bounce back. And Mohammad Siraj, yes, he went for 24 runs in his last 2 overs, but overall 1 for 30 in 4 overs. Like I said, if you bowl 3 of them with a new ball, if Wayne Parnell has a better day than he has today, which he will do, and he can bowl with a new ball and at the death, then you've got a very good 2 bowlers there. Vishek Vijay Kumar, we saw what he did against the Delhi Capitals, had an opposite day today, but it does happen. He's in his second game in his IPL career. And I thought Glenn Maxwell could have bowled his full 4 overs. And you saw in the last 3 deliveries after Harshad Patel was taken off the attack, 2 runs in the last 3. And you'd think in the end they lost by 8 runs. You thought that those last 3 deliveries curtailed the score in a sense. And I thought with RCB, how they got close and how they were looking like they'd win, especially with how Glenn Maxwell and Faf du Plessis were going, and had they continued, you never know what could have happened. So I thought Glenn Maxwell's few deliveries at the end curtailed the score a bit, and I thought he should have bowled his 4 overs. And Wanindu Hasaranga was taken off after he bowled 2 overs for 21. And the reason why I'm saying Faf du Plessis shouldn't have chosen to bowl first is because you've got a case where Virat Kohli, if you're looking at his T20 template, goes semi-aggressively in the power play. And you've seen in this tournament at times, especially against LSE, for example, I think 41 off 24 he was after 4 overs that he faced. Then slowed down against the spinners and then was dismissed. And if you've got a case where you're chasing 220 odd and he does that, when he slows down, when you have to go above 11 and over from the get-go, it is tough. Whereas if he did that in the first innings and you've got a Glenn Maxwell to benefit from the foundation laid, even though he played magnificently today without a foundation laid, you could get to 212 at least like they did against LSG. And you've got Wanindu Hasaranga and a Mohammad Siraj to bowl up front along with a Wayne Parnell to really get those crucial wickets, put pressure on the CSK batsmen. So I thought if Hasaranga had 200 odd runs to defend in the bank, he would have a much better day than he did have today, and I thought he could have been bowled more. So that was on RCB. The tactics weren't great all round, and in the end, I wasn't surprised that they conceded all these runs. The RCB openers walked out to bat, and straight away, I thought Mahesh Deekshana should have opened the bowling from the first over itself. On Ashwin's channel, we saw Prasanna Sir say the same thing. And I thought that if Mahesh Deekshana got into the situation where he could break the back of this chase by taking early wickets, especially of the openers, I thought that RCB, we've seen in the first few games in the season that if you remove the openers, and I think especially remove Faf du Plessis early, this team does tend to struggle. And I think today we also saw a different type of foundation be established where, yes, it wasn't the opening partnership. They were 15 for 2 at one stage, but a counter-attacking partnership of over 120 odd runs between Faf du Plessis and Glenn Maxwell established a foundation where, yes, the required run rate was still high because of the score they were chasing, but apart from Dinesh Karthik's innings of 28 or 14, the others couldn't really chip in that much to get their team over the line. They did take it close, but they couldn't get them over the line. So I think the contributions of the top 4 are still vital for this team to really push on from there. And I thought they were lucky with dismissing Virat Kohli early on. I don't think that his dismissal was unlucky, so to speak. Yes, that it could be interpreted that way. But if you look at the dismissal, he wasn't watching the ball. Even with the boundary that he got, he wasn't watching the ball. And when you do that, you are prone to those kind of dismissals where you won't get the connection required, and if you don't watch the ball, you don't know what's going to happen. So I think I wouldn't say the dismissal itself was unlucky, but I would say CSK were lucky dismissing him, considering if you bowl Akash Singh, who's been okay in the first two games so far, and Tushar Deshpande to someone who likes pace on the ball, and especially in the power play, we've seen him tee off, especially on a good batting surface like this one. I think he would have been very happy to face those two. So dismissing him early, I thought was a bonus. And I thought, look, if he had got past the power play and slowed down, it wouldn't have been ideal for RCB. However, if he had got to 41 of 24 or so in the first four overs, which is why I said if I was Faf du Plessis, I would have batted first rather than bowled first. But in this case, if he got to 41 of 24 or so and then dismissed, then you've got a Faf du Plessis, Mahipal Lumror, Glenn Maxwell to accelerate, then that would have still been okay. But I thought CSK dismissing him and also meaning that he wasn't able to tee off against the seamers. Because of that, I thought it was a let-off for CSK. And we saw Mahipal Lumrod be dismissed for 0-5 ball. Should have been dismissed early on, really, but the CSK fielding hasn't been great in the last two games. We saw Mahesh Deekshana drop another catch, an easy catch, really. And Moeen Ali in the last two games, I don't really know what's been going wrong in the field for him, but I do back him to come good. He's a fantastic player, and he's a very good fielder as well. So that's on that. And a magnificent partnership between Faf du Plessis and Glenn Maxwell. I've seen on this very ground, Glenn Maxwell scoring a 60 of 22 when chasing 384 that India posted all the way back in 2013, I think, the day that Rohit Sharma scored a double century. And that innings, I still would say, is the best innings I've ever seen him play. He walked out to bat and was just smacking everyone around, especially, I think, Ravichandran Ashwin. So him walking out today in the same ground, and once again a maverick-like inning, 76 of 36, and we've seen he's been okay. Apart from the game against KKR, he's been okay. We're very good, and especially two of the innings that he's walked out to bat and got a 23 of 11, I think, in the game against Delhi. So he's been going very well in this tournament, had a decent season the previous time around, and was very good, scoring 500 runs at 650s in the 2021 season, an outstanding contribution. And with the ball, he's never a bad bet, which is why I thought he should have bowled his 4 overs today. And he was the stand-in captain for Faf du Plessis, I think, in the latter part of the first innings. So a very good innings, a brilliant innings from him and Faf du Plessis in this partnership. And even though it looked like the Chennai Super Kings, while they were going, it looked like they may take the game away from them. The moment Glenn Maxwell was dismissed, you kind of thought, look who is to come. Apart from Dinesh Karthik, who's going to take the game away from you? And we didn't know who the impacts would be at that point in time as well, when they would introduce him. So I thought that who, apart from Dinesh Karthik, would take this game away from CSK if you've got even one of Glenn Maxwell and Faf du Plessis dismissed at the point they were. And apart from Dinesh Karthik, I couldn't really find anyone. So we saw that materialize. And like I said, Mahesh Deekshana should have opened the bowling, and Ravindra Jadeja should have been introduced into the attack earlier than he was. And you saw Mahesh Deekshana be attacked from the outset when he walked out to bowl. When he bowled his first over, 1 for 41 again in this game, and none for 42 in his previous game. But like I said, Faf du Plessis had already got his eye in before, and you're bowling him now when I thought Akash Singh sledging him, he was going well until then, and I think didn't bowl a delivery after the point when du Plessis took him for runs after the sledge. So I think once the batsman and a quality player like him gets his eye in, it's a wrong time to include Deekshana first up. We should have done that before. And like I said, even an error-strewn game from both sides, I thought the moment Glenn Maxwell would dismiss, CSK had still enough runs in the bank, and the required on it was still quite a bit, meaning that I still thought it'd be very difficult for RCB to win the game. So it took it quite close at the end, and I think still a decent net run rate early on for CSK after 4 games now, 5 games now, won 3, lost 2, and a net run rate of 0.27. Like I said, the toss decision against the Rajasthan Royals was a poor one from MS Dhoni, and I think that is a lot of the reason why they did lose that game. But 1-3, lost 2 after 2 disappointing losses where they really should have won those games. I think so far I think they are sitting okay. I think they should probably qualify in 4th. I don't think it'll be a convincing top 2 finish, or like we have seen in previous times where they have qualified, but I still think they should qualify in 4th. And for RCB, unfortunately, we saw Faf du Plessis where I think he has got some kind of an injury on his back, I think, and I don't think he would probably be fit for the next game, with the way that I think even in the post-match interview, he didn't reveal the full extent of his injury, but you could tell he was hiding something. So I'm a huge fan of his, and I hope he is fit for the next few games, but it seems unrealistic, especially for him to be fit for the next one. And he is the most vital player in this RCB batting lineup. I mean, looking at the other options they've got, Suyash Prabhu, they say, could bat at the top of the order. I don't mind that at all. Would he fill the shoes of Faf du Plessis? It depends. Virat Kohli will have to be kind of more of that lead player. I think, yes, he scores 350 so far in this competition, but I think he's going to have to play the role that Faf du Plessis played, batting through, I think. And I think we'll have to see the case where even if Virat Kohli does slow down, he bats through and finishes games like we have seen him do so on so many occasions. And if a platform is established, you've got a Glenn Maxwell who can come up with the goods. So I hope RCB bowl first. Sorry, no, not bowl first. I hope RCB bat first and look to defend the score with their bowlers. I think if you've got a Mohammad Siraj bowling with 220 odd runs to defend with a new ball, Hasaranga defending that sort of runs with the opportunity to take wickets as well, and a Glenn Maxwell who's very economical with the ball. I think that should be quite a decent outlook for RCB in their bowling, and that is a way they can look to win games. So that's on that. And tomorrow we've got a game between the Mumbai Indians and the Sunrisers Hyderabad. I think it is in Hyderabad. We've seen the Mumbai Indians look to bowl first and chase down the scores, and that probably is what they would look to do tomorrow from their point of view. However, you've also got a case where I think they could look to bat first tomorrow. The reason why is if you let Harry Brook, Aidan Markram, and Heinrich Klaas and so on and so forth, Mega will come good, like I said in the first part of the video. If you let those players score 200 odd runs, even though SRH's attack, I still think you can back yourself to get those runs. They'd much rather look to defend the score than to be bowling first. So maybe the Mumbai Indians could just say, right, let's just try and get it as many runs as we can. A great win in the last 2 games, especially in the game against KKR, where apart from Venkatesh Iyer, there was nothing really to speak about from the KKR performance, and MI thoroughly deserved to win that game, especially with the way they went in the second innings. So I think that both sides will be feeling confident from their previous games. 2 wins in their last 2 games. And yeah, let's see how this game goes. I do think if SRH, it depends actually, because both bowling sides aren't necessarily the greatest. You've got Bhuvneshwar Kumar and Natarajan and Mayank Markandeya have been bowling very well in the last 2 games. So SRH may have the slight edge, but it depends how the batting lineups will go. And if MI kind of go the way they went in the previous game and SRH go the way their lineup looks like it could go, it'd be interesting to see who comes on top tomorrow. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Please share it with your friends. Remember, this is my opinion. What's yours?